The vindictive love of Circe for Picus. The forests of Latium hummed with life, the great trees casting long shadows as the sun's golden light wove between their leaves. Birds sang, the wind rustled softly through the foliage, and beneath the vast canopy, King Picus rode with the grace of a god. Clad in a tunic of deep crimson, his dark curls tousled by the wind, Picus was the very image of divine favor. He bore the regal blood of Saturn's line, a warrior blessed by the heavens. The spear in his grip was steady, his horse, a stallion black as night, obeyed his every command with effortless precision. At his side his hunters followed, their hounds sniffing the air eagerly, ready to pursue their prey. And ahead, crashing through the undergrowth, was the beast they had been chasing since dawn. A great boar fat with the spoils of the land, its hide gleaming with sweat. Picus leaned forward in his saddle, his sharp eyes fixed on his mark. "Hold," he commanded, raising his spear. The men behind him obeyed, reining in their horses. Picus steadied his aim. But before he could strike, the boar vanished, as if it had never been there at all. A murmur of unease rippled through the hunting party. Picus frowned, scanning the trees. The air had changed, felt thicker, laced with something unnatural. Then a new creature emerged, a stag. A magnificent thing, pale as the moon, its antlers twisting toward the sky like the arms of an ancient god. It stood there watching, waiting. A challenge. Picus's lips curled into a smirk. "If the gods think I fear a mere deer, they are mistaken." He spurred his horse forward. From the depths of the enchanted woods Circe watched. Golden-haired, sun-kissed, and robed in the finest silks, the sorceress of Aeaea was the daughter of Helios, the granddaughter of Oceanus. Men feared her. Women envied her. Gods respected her. And yet, this man had made her feel something no god, no mortal ever had. She had seen him once. Just once. And that was all it took. His beauty was unparalleled, but it was more than that. It was the fire in his eyes, the strength in his stance. The way he carried himself as if the very earth bent to his will. She had taken many lovers before, ensnared men with ease, bending them to her desire. But this one, she would not let slip through her fingers. With a whispered incantation she wove her trap. The stag led Picus deeper into the woods. The deeper he rode, the more the world around him changed. The trees grew taller, their trunks warped, twisted like hands reaching for something unseen. The birds no longer sang. The sunlight dimmed into an eerie twilight. Picus, despite himself, slowed his horse. Something was wrong. "Show yourself," he called, his voice steady. "I do not play games in the dark." A laugh, soft, silken, dripping with honey and venom. Then she appeared. Circe stepped from the shadows, a vision of impossible beauty. Her golden hair cascaded in wild waves down her shoulders, her skin glowed like polished ivory, and her eyes, burned like liquid amber, ancient and all-knowing. The air itself thickened around her, a presence, a force. Picus felt it. He ignored it. "You are far from your shores, sorceress," he said. "What is your business in my lands?" Circe smiled. "I might ask the same of you, king. I do not answer to witches." Her smile deepened. "Perhaps not yet." She stepped closer. The very ground trembled at her presence. "I have seen many men, Picus," she purred. "Warriors, kings, but none like you." "And you never will," he replied coldly. Circe tilted her head. "Such confidence. I admire that." She reached out, tracing a finger down his arm, but before she could touch him, Picus jerked away. Circe's lips parted in surprise. "You reject me?" she murmured. "A son of Saturn refuses the favor of a goddess?" "You mistake me," he said. I do not refuse you because I am a god's son. I refuse you because I am a husband's. Circe's eyes darkened. Canens, she hissed. Picus's jaw clenched. Yes, he said. My wife. My love. My soul. She's my goddess, Circe. Not you. A moment of silence. Then laughter. Low, rich and terrible. Circe raised her chin, her golden locks shifting like a lioness's mane. You are strong, she mused. And that is why this is such a waste. Do what you will, Picus said unfazed. Your spells will not change my heart. Circe's smile was slow, cruel, inevitable. Then I shall change your body instead. Before Picus could move, Circe raised her hands. Magic crackled through the air. A violent, unseen force that tore through his flesh, his bones, his very soul. Pain, blinding, all-consuming, reshaping pain. His limbs shrank. His flesh tightened, hardened. Feathers, dark, glossy, unnatural, burst from his skin. Picus staggered, his voice stolen, his strength crumbling beneath the weight of her sorcery. And then his hands were gone. His body no longer his own. He beat his wings. He tried to speak, to scream, but only a sharp cry escaped his beak. A woodpecker. He had been reduced to nothing more than a bird, doomed to flit between trees, his voice lost to the wind. Circe looked upon her work and smiled. You are mine now, she whispered. 4 days Canens searched for her husband. She called his name into the forests, her songs filled with sorrow, with longing, with love. And Picus, he heard her. Perched upon the highest boughs he watched. Helpless. Canens wept. For 6 days she searched. For 6 days she refused food, refused sleep, singing, always singing. Until at last her body too weak gave way. She collapsed by the Tiber River. And as the water carried her voice away, so too did it carry her soul. Circe from her tower watched it all. She had cursed him. She had taken him. And yet she had lost. For even in feathers, even in exile, Picus loved another. And he always would.